Ask yourselves a question. If you live in a populated city, if the lights went out for 2 days, if the electric power went out for 2 days, do you think that crime would go up or down? Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a 60-year cycle, which is a 60-year cycle of civil unrest, all right, of violence. And it seems that we are in the middle of that cycle. If you look back 60 years ago, in the late 50s, early 60s, we were having the same things happen. We had a lot of violence going on in the streets, and it is now getting worse. In many cities in America, the criminals are starting to gain firm control of the streets. And ladies and gentlemen, this video, in a way, is a segue off of the last video that I put up. If you haven't seen that video about the Second Amendment, go ahead and take a look at the right hand corner of this video right now, and a card will be popping up and you can check that video out. I think it's an important video for everyone to watch so that they can understand how important it is that we are able to defend ourselves when law enforcement is not able to be there when it counts. Every week, the horrendous crime wave that is sweeping across America seems to be getting worse. In some of our largest cities, looting, murder, and violence are becoming a way of life, and authorities seem to be powerless to do anything about it. My point exactly. Who is going to protect you when there's no one there that can? Is this what we can expect life in the United States to look like moving forward? All over the globe, people are watching us, and they are stunned by what they are seeing. Criminals are widely out of control, and many of our largest cities are being transformed into extremely violent war zones. If you live in an area that is very populated, it may be time for you to consider moving out. I know that it's easier said than done. I spoke to a really good friend of mine. I consider him a really good friend. He's one of our community members. I spoke to him just a couple of days ago, and I won't say where he lives, but he says that where he lives, his catalytic converter in his vehicle, and I know this is not violent crime, it's just theft, but just take this into consideration if you had to live in an area like this where this happened to you. His catalytic converter in his vehicle has already been stolen twice, and the last time that it was stolen, when he reported it to the police, they told him that it was the 8th report that day. Just in one day, when he reported it, who knows how many more occurred that weren't reported, or how many more occurred after he reported it. So, living in a populated area that is crime-ridden is a recipe for disaster for you and your family. You may want to consider at least having another location to go to. Call it a bug-out place, whatever you want to call it. Having a second location to go to in case things get really bad. And here, the chief of Oakland County, California, says that the 4th of July reeled into 12 hours of nonstop chaos, all right, with victims wounded by celebratory gunfire, a homicide, and a massive sideshow marred by gunfire. The night culminated at the sideshow where more than 200 participants pelted police officers with debris and flashed them with handheld lasers. Man, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you what, if you live in a city where the police are null and void, then that is even a better reason for you to start considering, or at least consider seriously, moving out. Embattled Oakland Police Chief LeRon Armstrong told reporters that the level of violence and gunfire overwhelmed his officers. Next door, the shoplifting epidemic in San Francisco has evolved into systemic looting. You know, I do believe that in San Francisco they passed a law where they said that if you shoplift anything under a certain amount of dollars, that they're not even going to bother coming to the store. I think that's what it is. But even so, you know, you can go in there and have a free pass to take so many dollars worth of merchandise without being stopped by anyone, without getting in trouble with the police. Let's read on here. Sadly, no retailer is immune. Even though Neiman Marcus has enthusiastically embraced a whole host of woke causes, criminals ruthlessly looted one of their stores in San Francisco on Monday. Looters were captured on video Monday ransacking a Neiman Marcus in San Francisco as thefts continue to plague businesses in the area. And you know what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen? Enough will be enough. Businesses will start to pick up and leave, and there will be nothing there for the community. At least 9 suspects smashed display cases, snatched handbags, and jetted out of the building before law enforcement arrived to the scene at about 6 p.m., according to footage. The suspects were then seen running out of the store with their hands full of merchandise before entering an apparent getaway car that sped off down a busy intersection. Now, ladies and gentlemen, looting is exactly what it is. As you heard here, they were stealing like merchandise. They weren't stealing food because they were hungry. I can say that I would be somewhat empathetic towards people that have to steal food to survive because their children are hungry and they haven't eaten in days. You know, I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying that you should do that. But I would feel empathetic towards a parent that saw no other way because the system had completely let them down, that they had to go and steal a loaf of bread or some milk or something to feed their children because their children were so hungry. But when people go into stores just to steal merchandise, to steal handbags, jewelry, etc., that is a sign that things are getting really bad, all right? And that you should start thinking about moving somewhere else. At this point, the looting has gotten so bad that some major retailers are taking drastic actions. Walgreens shuttered 17 of its stores in San Francisco in the past 5 years, and they said that thefts in the area are 4 times more likely than anywhere else in the country, as executives budgeted 35 times more for security personnel to guard the chains. Wow, that's incredible. Target executives in the city also decided to limit business hours in response to the uptick in larceny. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we are turning into a third world country. This sentence right here, Target executives decided to limit business hours. That's what third world countries do. They limit business hours during the daylight because people are afraid to walk in the streets at night. But unless they completely close shop, the looting is going to continue. Criminals in California have learned that if they keep the value of the merchandise they steal at each store to under $950, they won't be charged with a felony even if they are caught. So now we are witnessing a wave of retail theft that is unlike anything we have ever seen before. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just like the mortgage moratorium. I'm sure that a lot of people that took advantage of the mortgage moratorium just couldn't afford to pay the mortgage because of what the government did in shutting down most businesses, right? Well, here, people are taking advantage of looting, of stealing, because the government now say, hey, you can steal more now. Now, I guess they're trying to keep looting up with inflation. All right, instead of making $500 grand theft, now let's go ahead and make it above $950. So you can steal more now because, you know, inflation. San Francisco Police Lieutenant Tracy McCray pinned the blame on the DA, on the district attorney. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when I laugh, I'm not laughing because I'm happy about this. It's because it's ridiculous. Ridiculous what's going on in our nation with all of this crime that is being allowed to happen. Here we have people on Capitol Hill passing laws left and right. All right, left and right against things that aren't really a problem when they should be passing laws against criminals. Here they sit and pass laws against law-abiding citizens to restrict law-abiding citizens, but they take away laws, at least here at the local level, they take away laws that would incriminate people for actually doing crime, for actually participating in criminal activity. So the San Francisco Police DA says, what happened in that Walgreens has been going on in the city for quite a while. McRae said in June, I'm used to it. I mean, we could have a greatest hits compilation of people just walking in and cleaning out the store shelves and security guards, the people who work there just standing by helplessly because they can't do anything. And they even admit that they have a problem. Up in Portland, the street violence just continues to get worse. Earlier today, I was saddened to learn that a very generous man that put up a swimming pool for the homeless during the heat wave here in the summer was stabbed and then ended up dying. So this gentleman put up a pop-up pool so that the homeless can keep cool. And he ends up getting, stabbed to death. That's the country we're living in now, ladies and gentlemen. Well, not the entire country. That's why I say there are places in this country where you can go and have a better standard of living when it's considering the crime level. I'm not saying that here where I live, it's perfect. It's not. There's crime here, but it's very limited because the criminals are dealt with very swiftly. In Chicago, this holiday weekend was the most violent weekend that we have seen in 2021 so far. And this was really saying something. Every July 4th weekend, police in Chicago brace for an uptick in violence, even more than usual when typical weekends average around 40 shootings. A typical weekend averages around 40 shootings, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I do believe that Chicago, don't quote me on this, but I do believe that Chicago is one of those states that has, or cities, not states, but cities, and the state as well, I believe. Illinois, I believe, is one of those states that has the most draconian Second Amendment, anti-gun legislation in the country. It's one of those states that has one of those most anti-gun legislation in the country. And here, they average 40 shootings a weekend. Not a week, a weekend. That is over 2,000 shootings in a year, just counting the weekends. But they want to pass more laws to restrict, you and I, the average citizen, in having something to protect themselves with. And this holiday weekend was no different, easily registering as the deadliest and most violent this year, given the total death count. New York City has also been witnessing a steady uptick in seemingly random shootings and violence, including brazen acts committed in broad daylight in heavily trafficked areas, such as the recent Times Square wounding of a U.S. Marine. I haven't read about that, but I believe it. On Monday, the Chicago Sun-Times has tallied 92 people shot over the long 4th of July weekend, with 16 killed. The Sun-Times database shows the number killed to be a weekend high for all of 2021 thus far. And to finish it off here, it says, ordinary citizens are begging our leaders to do something about this enormous wave of violence, but at this point, nothing seems to be working. If things are this bad now, while the U.S. economy is in recovery mode, quote unquote, how bad will conditions get when the next severe downturn comes along? It is heartbreaking to watch our society come apart at the seams all around us. And I have a feeling that what we are witnessing so far is just the beginning. And ladies and gentlemen, it is just the beginning. I'm not here to scare you. As I told you on the previous video, I'm here to tell you that things are going to get worse. It is a cyclic thing that happens. And when the next major crisis occurs, things will get worse. And you remember this part where I read, ordinary citizens are begging our leaders. Why should ordinary citizens beg their leaders? They're not your leaders. They're not our leaders. They are our workers, ladies and gentlemen. They work for us. Think about it this way, right? I have to take this video that I'm recording right now, and after I'm done recording it, I have to put it into an editing software and edit it, right? Cut out any coughs that I might have. Maybe the dog jumped on my lap or whatever, right? Cut that kind of stuff out because you don't want to see that stuff. You don't want to hear me coughing or see me coughing, right? Or see me throwing a coughing fit if I have one, right? So let's say that I hire someone to edit my videos, which I never will. But let's say I did. And then that person edits my videos, and then I have to take a look at it before it's released to the public, right? Before it's released for your viewing pleasure. And I don't like it. And that person that I hired tells me, well, no, this is how it's got to be. This is how it's going to be. That's my decision. This is how it's going to be. What do you think I'm going to say as the person that hired that person to edit my videos? I'll be like, listen, you either do it my way or get out. I'll find someone else or I'll do it myself. Same thing here, ladies and gentlemen. The citizenry who hires these crooked politicians are begging the crooked politicians to continue to do those things that have never worked. Instead of saying, get out. Get out. I'll either do it myself by protecting myself or I'll hire someone else. And this is where we are. But like I said, things will continue to get worse, and I'll tell you why. Because in my opinion, and this is total opinion, the elite, our rulers, the people that like to rule over us, They need another major crisis. Every time that one of these shootings occurs, guess what happens? It's more ammunition that they can have in order to throw out to the uneducated population or to the uninformed population to tell them, you see, this is why we need to take away your rights. The more bad things that they allow to happen, the more of your rights that they take away with your permission. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Is that the country that you want to live in? What can we do about it? Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. Some of the things that come up when I think, what can we do about it, are things that are very drastic. I believe that in the future they will happen. Because when a people has had enough and they can take no more, they will take no more. In case any of you know who Gerald Celente is, he says that when people have nothing to lose, they lose it. And eventually this will be the case in these United States of America. Because people one day will wake up and say, I've had enough. I can't live like this anymore. My worth is more than what I am living. My worth is more. I have more value than what this life is offering me, living in these conditions. People will eventually say, I've had enough. And we must prepare for when that day comes. It's not just with boomsticks or freedom Z's, but it's with food, with water, with replacing the infrastructures that you depend on, right? Replacing them, having a backup for them. That way, when these infrastructures go down and the crime waves go up, because trust me, ask yourselves a question. If you live in a populated city, if the lights went out for 2 days, if the electric power went out for 2 days, do you think that crime would go up or down? And eventually, those things are going to happen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for joining in today, spending a little bit of your time here with me today. I hope you get something out of this. And like I said, if you can't get out of the city, if you live in a populated area and you cannot get out, at least have a backup plan of somewhere that you can go, all right, to wait out whatever may be happening in that area if it gets too violent for you to live there and for your families to live there. Remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.